just doing odd-end jobs, whatever I can do to help the ministry. And then one of my main goals and one of my main responsibilities as an employee at Precious Life is running and organizing our the festival season for us. So the shows and the fairs that we do in the summer and in the beginning part of the fall. It's one of our big fundraisers of the year. Once we get through the banquet and then the baby bottles, we go into show season. So I head that up along with Scott. And so if any of you out there are looking for something to do, feel free to leave a comment, and we'll get back to you and let you know how you can help us during show season. All right, let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, just want to thank you for this evening, and I just want to thank you for everything that you've given to us, the ability to stream this worldwide, not for just the people in the local area that wouldn't have been able to make it out, but even people around the world that would have never been able to come to the in-person banquet. So I just want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to be able to do this. Just bless this night, bless the stories that people will hear, that it will just sink in and just speak to people's hearts, and just we know that you're on the throne, and with everything that's going on, that you're in control. And so just give this just an opportunity for people to have a positive outlook tonight, and just bless this evening in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Brandon. It is a joy to be with you. Who would have ever thought that we would be doing this on this evening? God would have thought it. God would have known. And someone once said it's a good thing that he doesn't show us our future, because we wouldn't want to fulfill it. And I think that sometimes that's true. So it is a joy to be with you. I've seen some folks coming online, and thank you so much for joining us. Normally I would say how great you all look out there, but all I've got is Troy and Jackson. And so I want to thank Troy, thank Jackson, his son. I want to thank Jim Balzano and Transformation Church for allowing us to use their facilities and be able to share this evening. And it's not just you folks, it's folks from all around the world. I've got a friend in Cyprus who's probably watching, a golfer named Gabriel Toador, and he's probably watching. And there might be some folks in Spain. I have a crazy brother in California, and he's with us, Florida. So we're covering a lot of places, and that's kind of exciting. We want to share with you this evening just what Precious Life is all about. And much of that's going to focus on the girls and the clients. But it's so much more than that. We have seen some remarkable things in the people that work with us, our staff, our volunteers, the folks who go to Romania and do missions trips. A year ago, Brandon, you were not married. And I didn't say happy and not married, I just said not married. And Brandon met his future bride on a Precious Life Romania missions trip. And so it has an impact on the people who work in our office. It has an impact on you who give, those of you who pray. So I want you to understand that. It's a blessing much greater than what you might think. And while we will mostly focus on what we do, we always get involved in tangential ministries and opportunities to serve. So where Precious Life is a crisis pregnancy ministry, but it's a little bit more than that. And so I want to apologize for those of you who wanted to come to the banquet so much and couldn't make it. That's okay. We did our best to try to put it together, but we were not allowed to do that. We understand that. We had taken a lot of precautions. A lot of preparation had already gone into work. The storks were already made. They were like a 70, I guess what do you call it, a flock of storks? I'm not sure. but the storks were already made for centerpieces, and volunteers had done a lot of work, but that was not to be. So we welcome all of our friends from around the world, our Romanian friends, our Gypsy friends. I've got alumni that are watching from when I went to high school, which was just like 5 years ago. And so they're watching, and that's kind of unique. They've never been able to do that. So to my friends, I welcome you, and I thank you again for coming. We've been practicing social distancing here. We're all okay. I've been married 42 years, and my wife practiced social distancing a long time ago. 6 feet, that would be 2 meters, I think, for my Romanian friends, and she didn't think that was enough, so she's increased it to 10 feet, and she's bought me a pole, and I have to pick that up when I go in the house, and there's my 10-foot pole, and that's now 3.5 meters, so she's quite pleased with that and seems to be working out pretty good. I don't know what you're doing to maintain your social distancing, but that's the new vocabulary now, isn't it? And I got to thinking, what would be the benefits of having a virtual banquet? And I came up with a few. Apart from the fact that you get to see me, but I don't get to see you. I don't know if that's a benefit or not. I'm sure I'll get some comments on that. But you didn't have to worry about parking your car. You didn't have to worry about walking into the Jaffa, that long walk. You didn't have to worry about waiting in line for food. And you could even be watching right now in your PJs. So there's a lot of good things that come from a virtual banquet. And the purpose of the banquet, we couldn't have the Jaffa, and there was some criticism that we were doing this for money. We've told our board members for a long time, I make it a blanket statement. The bottom line for Precious Life at a banquet is not the bottom line, not the financial bottom line. It's the girls. It's the girls that we work for. And this is one of our primary fundraisers, and it's the first one that gets our season off. So we really miss that fellowship. We're able to still inform. That's one of the purposes of the banquet. I hope that you will be inspired. That's one of the purposes of the banquet. The only thing we lack is the fellowship, and that will have to come at a later time. But you have been praying for us, and we appreciate that very much. The theme of the banquet this year is Philippians chapter 3, verse 14. Forgetting those things that are behind and reaching forth to those things that are before, we press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. We didn't realize that we would be in this situation, but that verse takes on a little extra special meaning. So, without further ado, let me go and when I got ready to do the budget last year in October, I went into our Excel or our what program is that, Brandon? Huh? No, the money thing. Quicken. I went into Quicken and did the budget based on last year's expenditures and income. And there's a little tab on there. You can hit a little tab, and it gives you all the time you've had that program since 2001. And so I was amazed at that, and because of that, I did some mega data, and I came up, after I saw what we did financially, I came up with an investigation into how many clients we've had. And this is not to boast, this is not to remember the past, because we'll cover that in a second. But I want to show you, if I can. Troy, can we put up that little thing on 30 years of service, 35 years of service? In 35 years, we have received over 70,000 phone calls. That's a lot of phone calls, and we've been blessed to do that. I can't read that from where I'm at. 32,000, there it is, I can see it on the big screen. 32,000 office visits, estimated, in both Johnstown, Bedford, and Romania, and Altoona. And then abortions prevented, roughly around 400. Maternity needs met, about 50,000 packs of diapers, bassinets, maternity clothes, some formula sometimes, some help with rent, those kinds of things. Material needs met, about 50,000. Although we've closed the maternity home, in the course of that 35 years, we had about 30 years with the maternity home and about 300 clients in there. And so that's been a blessing. We still use our apartments, and you can keep praying for the sale of the maternity home that goes well, but we use our apartments for some of our clients, and we have one in particular that we've been working with, and we're able to work with them much longer. So we've been with her for about 1.5 years now. And then our purity presenters in Romania and occasionally here in the U.S., we've reached over 100,000 plus teenagers and young people with the message of purity and abstinence, and so that has been a great, great blessing. We're going to show you a video about a young lady that we worked with. It's a different kind of work. Sometimes we think, well, your precious life, so you do pregnancy testing and you do some counseling and you maybe help the parents help the girl tell her parents and give them guidance in that, and maternity clothes and baby clothes and some of those things. And now we have the Earn While You Learn program, and so that's helpful. So that's what you do, but every story is different. And even though there were thousands of people that we've talked to, it all comes down to one person, because we see them one day at a time. And we're still able to stay open. We're still able to see clients, not in the same fashion, but we've been able to stay working and ministering to those girls because they're still there. They still get pregnant. And it's not big numbers. It's one at a time as they call on the phone and as they come in. So I'm going to introduce you to Tony. We're going to do Tony's story in two segments. And we were going to have her speak, and we thought, well, let's put her on video in case we ever want to use it. We didn't realize we'd have to use it right away. So I will introduce Tony to you, and she'll tell about half of her story, and then we'll come back.
Tony, I first met you in November of 2013 when you were pregnant with Mia, and you were homeless. And we interviewed you for the maternity home. So at that season of your life, tell us what you were walking through.
I don't know. I think I didn't know where I was.
Okay.
It was basically me trying to find my way through life, and like the starting of everything. You know, it was first time being pregnant, first time mom, so kind of just like the beginning of my life, I would say.
Okay. So you chose not to come to the maternity home. So when you chose not to come, what transpired then after that?
When I chose not to come, I think I felt like I wanted more of a foot in the door to do it on my own.
Okay.
So I chose to go to the homeless shelter, only because I feel like that was more of an independence. I wanted to do things and have a way to get on my feet by myself, and to assist their father, who was in prison. I don't know if he was.
Yeah, you can
But
say.
he was getting out and he couldn't be there with me. So kind of like I wanted to work as a team with him, and I feel like the maternity home, it wouldn't have allowed that. So I did the homeless shelter so we could kind of, get on our feet together and be more independent as a couple.
So how did that work out for you then with getting back with him, and how did that transpire then next?
It didn't work out very well. I feel like in that point in my life I wasn't mature. Our relationship didn't work. It was very unhealthy. A lot of abuse, a lot of just stuff that just not healthy.
So you chose not to come to the maternity home, and what I remember you telling me afterwards was you wished you would have came because it didn't work out with the father of the baby, but you ended up with Yondell. So at that season of your life, can you tell us about the relationship with the father of the children?
I wasn't mature, wasn't ready. We had a baby, we just weren't ready. We had no housing situation, income wasn't good, and I feel like maybe I should have came there because I could have done it on my own. But I also feel like it was a growing process, all around growing process, and just evaluating, what I was going through with him, as well as, now we have a second baby on the way. And that, not being prepared for that either. Just growing experiences, I feel like life. I mean, I got Yondell, love Yondell, but it was rough. It was a tough situation. It really was.
I've always appreciated your coming in to the office. You didn't come in because you had needs. You come in because you wanted to show off the kids and just show me how you were growing in your life. But I'll never forget the phone call that I got. And I remember you saying to me, "Are you sitting down?" And I said, "Yes." And you said, "I'm pregnant with twins and I had considered abortion, but I'd like to explore adoption." Can you tell us your story from that point of pregnancy, finding out you're pregnant, and all of that story?
When I found out I was pregnant with the boys, me and Yondell's dad was in jail. There was a very rough point in my life where he was on the streets. He wasn't doing well. So he became in prison because of a situation that happened outside of our home with me and the kids. I was self-sabotaging. I was hurt. I was in a situation where I didn't really know what to do. So I was, talking to people and ended up meeting someone who happens to be the twins' dad. And I didn't want a relationship with him. And I expressed that to him, and he had said, "Oh, I'll pay for abortion." And at that point in time, I was scared. I didn't know what to do. So it seemed like what was right. And I didn't really have an idea of, I never went through that. I never had the feeling of, oh, well, it's scary. I'm not going to be with the person that I'm pregnant to. Because even though Angel and me had a rough situation, we were always together, no matter what, rough or not. So, I mean, considering abortion was what seemed to be the easy way out for me, and not thinking or not in the right state of mind because of how sad, scared, just all around depressed. I mean, I'm at that point, because their dad was in jail, I was single, so I was pregnant. I had 2 kids by myself. I'm trying to get my life together alone. So I guess I don't know, I wanted to rid of the problem. And that sounds wrong, but that was how I felt inside at that time. And I said to myself, I can't do that. I went through with the process. I went to Pittsburgh, scheduled several appointments, was unable to have the proper payment the first time. So I had to go back again to Pittsburgh for the abortion. They did a sonogram. They were like, "Oh, do you want us to tell you if there's twins in there? There's 2 in there." I'm like, "Yeah, I want you to tell me." They told me, and at that moment, they showed me, and I couldn't do it. I saw 2 babies. I felt guilty enough for 1, because I'm like, how could I ever even have that thought? And then seeing 2, it pushed me to, I can't do it. And I had some input. People weren't okay with adoption, especially not abortion, but adoption was like, "Oh, well, you're going to give your babies to someone else." And I'm like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it alone. I can't do myself, 2 toddlers, 2 newborn babies. It was unrealistic for me to believe that I could do it alone and not lose myself.
So tell us about your adoption experience, the process that you went through.
I feel you were right. I didn't want to call. I didn't, because I was kind of unsure what to say, how to say it, what feedback I was going to get. I mean, I trusted you, but once you referred me, it was kind of like it was out of your hands. It was in the hands of somebody else. So, and I mean, it took some time, paperwork. I did call. I think maybe it was like 2 months.
Okay, might
I feel
have
like
been.
because
Yeah.
it takes a little bit of time, and then they schedule a meetup with you or whatever. So I called, and I don't know. I didn't really even want to talk. I think I actually might have started crying, I believe. And the lady was like, "Yeah, it's okay," try to figure out like where I was, what the situation was, and then scheduled to come meet up with me.
So as I watched you go through that process, you answered questions you already knew what you wanted as far as a family. I remember that very vividly, them asking you questions and you saying, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this. So tell us what type of adoption you wanted and tell us how that worked out for you.
I chose open because to me, what I was doing, it wasn't exactly what I wanted. Because obviously I wanted to keep the boys, but I wanted open because I wanted to be a part. I didn't want to be separated from them completely because when you do close, you don't get any communication. And in my eyes, I couldn't have ever done that to Mia and Yondell, ever. Like, to this day, no matter how hard things get, I never give up because being a part of their lives, whether they're every day, you're still there. You're never, you're always there. And whenever I found where I wanted to be with the open adoption, I had 10 families I got to choose from, and I picked 2 to meet with. I wanted to feel for the people. Like, I just, not just looking at them, but when I read their book, just like how family oriented they were. Did they have a big support system? Because where I come from, I don't have that. I have family, but it's not, the communication's not good. My dad's side is probably the most family I have because my mom's, they're pretty much, gone. But I just wanted the boys to have them plus some because they were losing me. You can't replace a mom.
Right.
And they weren't really losing me, but I wasn't going to be in that picture 24/7. I wanted people that wanted the babies. They actually truly wanted to be parents. They had the heart for it, and yeah.
And you wanted them to be open to you and to your other children as well, too.
That's the first half of Tony's story, and we'll give you the second half in a few minutes. I want to, I have a question, because I'm able to follow some of stuff on Facebook, and I want to know what's the most difficult part of the last few weeks have been for you. If you've followed me on Facebook at all, you know the most difficult part for me is trying to find a barber. I can't get a haircut. And so I'll tell you about my barber in a minute. But before I get there, I want to make sure I thank my board members and my staff. That was Sharon that you saw on there. And she's our administrative head at the Altoona office. Valerie's in there with her at the answering phones, receptionist and scheduling. And then we have Sherry in Bedford. We have Janelle and Jody in Johnstown running that office. The Bedford and the Altoona offices basically see about the same amount of clients, and so that kind of is good. And then over in Romania, we have 3 purity presenters and 1 girl inside of an abortion clinic, which we'll talk to you about later when we talk about Romania. As we came across the banquet and whether to have it and so forth, and we and all the turmoil, everything has changed every day. There's so much uncertainty. It's been frustrating. One day this is open, another day that's open, and I have yet to figure out why a beer distributor is a life essential, what's the phrase? What's the new, life sustaining? Life sustaining, yes. Maybe if I went to the beer distributor, I could find a barber and have him cut. No, that's not good. But as we worked through the process and everything upside down, as I'm sure your world was too, we had a board meeting, and I shared this with my board, and they thought I should share it with you. And I think it's a good little description. It's not very long. Just a little description of what we do and why we do it. And it says in the light of coronavirus, but I would probably take that out and just say this is kind of our pyramid of operations. And the first one is our core values, our core belief. Can you read that to me? I can't see it from here. Oh, our calling. Okay, our calling and our clients. That's what God's called us to do. And 35 years ago, he called us to start a crisis pregnancy ministry. At that time, there were not a whole lot of them, but we kind of went as we could plan it. And so went along and felt our way and made some things up along the way, made a lot of mistakes, made some other things, and that worked. And so that's our calling. That's what God's called us to do. It is absolutely foundational to our sanity and to our vision and to our ministry. The second thing are is that the clients? Services that we offer, the maternity clothes, the baby clothes, and all those things that you know us for. So those are extremely valuable. And then the third thing that I thought about was facilities, our facilities. My faculties are not too good, but my facilities are okay. And we have, those things to maintain. And so we have that. And then the last thing was what people see. They see the banquet, they see the fundraisers, they see us ministering to some girls, but they don't understand what's underneath it. And that's true with any business, that's true with any church, that's true with your pastor. You just see him on Sundays and he preaches, and you don't understand all the things that are beneath that. And if you invert that triangle and you make your fundraising your most important thing, then you've got the whole thing upside down. And so when we're making difficult decisions, we've boiled it down to, okay, God, what did you call me to do? What did you ask me to do? Let me get back to those basics. And we get back to those basic scriptures. That's forgetting those things that are behind and reaching forth to those things that are before. You'll see this in Tony's story. You'll see where she has to forget some of those things that are behind and start moving forward. And that's true in all of our lives. The Apostle Paul, who wrote that, had a lot of things to forget, didn't he? Some were good. In Philippians 1, he says, I was a Hebrew of the Hebrews, of the tribe of Benjamin. And he was quite successful. He was a rabbi, and he had some bad things too. He said, I persecuted the Jews. I persecuted the church. I was a madman. And so he had some things to forget. But we can't always forget, can we? I don't think he ever forgot standing at the feet of Stephen as they were stoning him. Paul would have had his letter allowing him to stone a Christian, and they cast their clothes at the feet of one named Saul of Tarsus. I don't think he ever forgot those things. But when God talks about forgetting things, he's not telling us to erase them from our memory. He's telling us that those things no longer control us. We don't make our decisions on the things of the past. We're going to show you some more statistics, and some of them are fun, and some of them are just unbelievable. But that's the past. That's the past. And the good thing about the past is that it's over. This crisis that we're going through will pass. And someday we'll look back at it as a distant memory. A couple of months ago, I had to change barbers. You may think I have a strange affinity for hair, but I just had to change barbers. Mine got too expensive, and I walked into a barber shop, and I recognized the girl, but I thought she was a sister from someone else we worked with. And I didn't talk to her. The next time I went back, I particularly asked for her, and I said, or she said to me, "Do you remember me?" And I said, "Aren't you so-and-so's sister?" She said, "No." And she told me her name, and she said, "I was in your maternity home 30 years ago." And as soon as she started to tell me the story, I said, "Oh, I remember. I remember very distinctly her time with us at the maternity home." And we talked for a little bit, and she said, I asked about her parents because she had been kicked out, and I asked about how things ended up with her son, and he's now a very successful guy in the state correctional system. And she said, "I just want you to know that it all worked out." I think that's a good thing for us to hear. It will all work out. And so that's what Jana, we didn't get a chance to get her online here, but what a great story. It all worked out, everything. My relationship with my parents, my son, everything worked out. And that's the hope and help that we offer through Jesus Christ. The tools of the trade are the diapers and so forth, but the hope that we have is in Christ. About 15 years ago, we were introduced to a ministry in Romania, and they asked us, "Would you come over and help us?" It was very much, as I sat there, I couldn't help but think of the story in the book of Acts about the Macedonian call of Luke, and where they say, "Come over and help us." And as we talked about it and prayed about it, we decided to go and work with them. So I'll let the video speak for itself, and it's just a 4-minute one, so I think you'll enjoy this. Precious Life had been in existence for 20 years when in 2005 we were approached by Mihaela Vișan from My Brother's Keeper, a missionary organization in Romania. She was desirous of starting a crisis pregnancy center because Romania had the third highest percentage rate of abortion in the world. Over 1/2 of Romanian pregnancies end in abortion. After much prayer, we decided to help. We trained their volunteers, provided some resources, and the Crisis Pregnancy Center, known as Pulse, was opened in 2006. Little did we realize the doors that God would open. Oradea is a city of about 200,000 people. They see around 250 clients face-to-face in their office every year, offering the same counseling services and material support that we do here in central Pennsylvania. In 2007, we were invited to come and help take care of abandoned children at the Children's Hospital. Despite the language barrier and our own overwhelming feelings of incompetence, God blessed the ministry greatly. Soon we were invited to the maternity hospital to care for abandoned babies. In 2010, the Pulse Center desired to start a purity presentation program. Although that was a radically new concept to the schools and the students, we were warmly received and the ministry grew exponentially. We now have 4 purity presenters in 4 major Romanian cities, reaching over 15,000 students every year. In 2012, a very unusual door opened unto us at the maternity hospital, where we were already volunteering to care for babies. We were invited to provide a counselor, a licensed psychologist, to enter the abortion clinic's waiting room and the prep room in order to provide solace, comfort, and prayer to those young ladies who were being prepped to have their abortions. At that time, the clinic was doing 25 abortions a week of our faithful 100 a month. That number is now down to 25 abortions a month and dropping. And, to make things even better, in March of 2020, the Pulse Center opened a brand new office right next to the maternity hospital, giving us a very strategic location. For Precious Life's 30th anniversary in 2015, we decided to celebrate by building 3 playgrounds in 3 needy areas of Romania. One of those happened to be in the gypsy village of Buldeș. Here we discovered a spiritually strong and dynamic gypsy community with an incredibly gifted choir. We decided to bring them to America in 2016, where they raised over $30,000 to start the building of a pro-life medical clinic. This medical clinic will be the first Gypsy-owned and operated clinic in all of Eastern Europe. We are now completing the clinic, and it will be dedicated in June 28th of 2020. To date, we have only used $5,000 of money from Precious Life. The remaining 98%, about $90,000 to $95,000, has been provided privately. The Crisis Pregnancy Center, rocking abandoned babies, a counselor inside of an abortion clinic, purity presenters, and a gypsy medical clinic. These are just some of the ways that Precious Life is having an impact in Romania. And I'd like to remind you that we only send about 7% of our total income to Romania. That investment has paid off with incredible dividends. I thought it was easier for me to do that than try to explain it all. So you got a good little picture of what is happening. We are celebrating our 15th anniversary there. Let me take care of a little bit of business, if I may. There's a church out there. Some of them are watching. And we were planning to go June 28th. I'm sorry, June 18th to June 28th, 29th. And we were going to dedicate that building on the 28th. I don't know if that's going to be realistic or not. I think from the American standpoint, we probably by June, middle of June, we probably would be okay. But we're dealing with a situation in Romania which is much worse than here, and so it might take them a lot longer to get any kind of normal back. So I would ask you to be in prayer for that if God wants us to go, we'll get to go, and if not, we'll push it back and maybe get there later in the fall. So that's we're going to hold off a church. My friends from the Martinsburg Brethren Christ Church, we're going to hold off until at least the end of April, maybe the beginning of May, and then we'll see what we're going to try to do, if anything, at that time. Pray for them. They're under much more restrictions than we are. They're not allowed to travel outside of their city. There's even some limited travel in some of the cities inside the city. And I just received word that our pastor friend Pastor Christie, has someone in his church that has contracted the virus. So it's a very real threat to them and to us as well. So let's go to that 35 years of giving. If we can, Troy. As I was able to go back and look at from 2001 to 2019, we had raised and spent over $6.8 million. And if you go from the beginning, from 1985, and some of it we had to estimate, some of it we had some records. That's a long time ago. But during that time, we've raised about 8.6. I'm not sure what it says there. Close to 8.2, 8.6, 8.6, somewhere in that neighborhood. And that's a lot of. Down south, they used to call them geeters. That's a lot of geeters, and you don't think of it in those terms. So I made a little chart, because I want you to see this very quickly. And what I did was I averaged the last, in 5-year periods. It would be impossible to get a chart up on there of 35 years every year what we did. So I estimated what we did in the 5 years as we could go back and get figures. Roughly $50,000 in the first 5 years that we were open, from 1985 to 1989. And you can read the numbers better than I can, so I won't, I'll be okay. Next 5 years, in our third 5 years, we were doing that, about 170-some thousand. No, yeah. Then we broke the 200,000 mark shortly after that. Is that correct? No, I'm reading it wrong. That's 150. Okay. And then in 2005 to 2009 or whatever, 2000, what is it? That's where we were at. And yeah, $258,000 for the average of those 5 years. And then it shot up like a rocket from 2005, or excuse me, 2005 to, 2009. Is that what that says, to 2014? And just under $400,000. And then we crossed across $500,000 in the last 5 years that we've been working with Precious Life. And I show you that just so you see the tremendous growth in those last 10 years. There's only 2 things that we did different in those last 10 years. One, we started our ministry in Romania, and the second one is we added staff, and that also multiplied our services. So that's where we're going, and that's the little financial report. Could you throw up that one little budget thing, Troy? We were going to, obviously we were going to have your banquet bulletins, and this would be in there, you could look at it. Our budget this year is $580-some thousand, and that probably at this point gets thrown out the window. It'll be interesting to see how all this plays out. I want you to know that we are in good shape financially. We were in good shape coming into the banquet, and when the banquet was canceled, just in 1 week, just this past week, with gifts and pledges, we've raised over $29,000. So we technically need about another 10 to 12,000, maybe 15, to be where we want to be. But for now, we're very good. We appreciate your sacrificial giving. I could tell you stories of what people have done, and it would just thrill your heart as to what people are doing in order to try to make us continue. We hope to get to the baby bottle campaign. If your churches are interested in that, we are praying that might be able to go off as planned. We have some contingencies. If we can't meet in churches, we'll have to try to do something else. That's another one of our big fundraisers. So then if we have those things, and if we sell the maternity home, we should be fine until we get towards the end of summer. If we cannot have the food festivals, they raise about $100,000 just by themselves. If we cannot do that, then that's towards the end of the year, September, October, November. That's when it will start to get very difficult. I don't anticipate that we will have any problems. Right now, we've taken all the steps necessary, frozen spending, frozen unnecessary spending, frozen all kinds of stuff. And so I think we're in pretty good shape until we get towards the summer months, the end of summer, and I think that'll be good. I want to do that so that you know financially where we are standing. And in a moment, we'll go back to Tony, let her finish her story, and then we'll talk about how you can give. We'll have a little offering time, look at some more of our sponsors, and then we'll be done. So I want to ask Troy, if you would, Troy, could you put Tony back up there, and we'll see the rest, as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of her story.
So walk us through the birthing process and the adoption and how that bonding time that you had with the boys before you placed them into their care.
I've set a time for myself. I wanted 3 hours with the boys alone, just so I could spend that quality time, like, just like the attachment, the skin-to-skin contact, get some pictures, just kind of be by myself with them for a little bit. And let them get here, get settled, and then they were to come. I want to say I had the boys at 3. They came at 6. I feel like that's how it went. I don't remember all of it because, well, it's pretty overwhelming, but I let them do everything. I let them feed. I let them do the changing. We sat down and made the decision together of because they were boys, it was circumcision. So from the day that we met, we made decisions together. Anything that happens, we kind of sat down, talked about it, whether, you know, they were okay with it or like we'd worked it out. And that was what it was like, you know, just sitting there, getting to know each other. And kind of, I didn't really want to be near anybody. I mean, I had a couple of visitors, but I wanted that time to be devoted directly to us because it was only 3 days. And I have 3 days to get to know people that are getting ready to
Right.
go home with my 2 boys, you know, so I wanted that time to be just for us. It was about my boys, it was about the family getting comfortable, you know, and in the process in the hospital, I wanted them to bond the way I was supposed to, which was the reason why they came 3 hours later. That was my skin to skin. Now, I did hold the boys every so often, but I wanted the boys to get familiar with their skin,
Yeah.
with the way they feel, because, see, babies get upset. They want their mom. Newborns especially, because of that bond, that connection. I wanted the boys to have that with them.
So when they left the hospital with the boys, was that really hard for you?
It wasn't.
Okay.
I feel like it was hard because normally I would be leaving with my babies, you know, because Mia and Yondell. But it wasn't hard because I felt secure. The way that I don't know, it's just like, I showed them everything. Like, I showed them the ropes. I was able to teach them what I knew and give them the experience that I knew, on top of the fact, you know, they wanted to be parents. They've been waiting for a very long time, married for almost 9 years, unable to get pregnant. So I don't know, it wasn't hard.
What I appreciate is the relationship that you still have with them. I think it was last Mother's Day you had sent me a video of the boys. The adoptive mom, Sarah, correct, had a video of them both wishing Mama Tony a happy Mother's Day. And I'm not a crier, but that made me cry. That brought a tear to my eye to see how well adjusted the whole open adoption thing was for you guys, and it still works. So you see each other on a regular basis, correct?
Every 3 months.
Okay.
We try to do, when it comes to birthdays, we try to get close to Mia and the twins, because Mia's the 3rd, they're the 28th, so it's only 25 days
Okay.
apart. So we try to do birthdays like that. Holidays, we create our own holidays. We actually just did the 28th of December. We cooked together. We had our own little feast that, you know, Weston, which is the dad, he sat with all the kids. Boys were napping. He had Mia and Yondell, and we sat there and we bonded. We cooked. We talked about motherly things, just like how we were feeling. You know, she told me about their situation. I told her about mine. And it's been like that for 2
So
years.
you feel like you have a support system for yourself as
them.
well too. Yeah.
I don't know how it would be if I hadn't picked them.
Yeah.
And I constantly remind them of that, and they tend to say, "Oh no." We're lucky, but we've actually recently came to an agreement that we're mutually lucky for each other, because I got an extra extended family
Yeah.
that I hadn't had. The
Right.
kids love them. They love all of my children, the ones that they adopted, along with the ones that I have. It's just, I don't know, it's all around a good situation. I couldn't imagine my life without them. I call them if I need to talk. I was told just recently by Sarah that if I ever needed to talk in the middle of the night and it was an emergency, to call 3 times, because she would know it was me and she would know it was an emergency. So it just, I feel like the adoption wasn't hard in that sense, because I knew, now obviously I felt emptiness
Right.
for you know, it's a kind of a grieving period. My mom passed away. I felt that emptiness. You feel that until, I don't know, it never goes away, but it gets better.
Yeah.
Because the more secure I feel, I know I'm going to see them when they're older. You know, we had talked one time about them calling me if they had questions, because there's things that they can't answer that I can.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, I give information, I relay stuff. If there's pictures of like their other siblings, I send it, whatever it may be. But I know that I'll always be Mama Tony. I'll always be able to. They can come visit me or come stay with me, or, you know, it's always a very welcoming situation between
good.
all of us.
So if you found out that someone was considering abortion, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to do the same thing I did.
Okay.
Be prepared. Maybe speak with someone who has experience and knows how to give them the proper information they need. Because with the agency I use, they ask questions. They dig in. They see what you need. You need to know what you need before you do an adoption. Considering abortion, I mean, you have to figure out what you want.
Yeah.
Whenever it comes to feelings about adoption, abortion, I feel like with me it was, I knew my boys needed something more. And they needed a family. Because I already gave my kids me.
Mm-hmm.
I can't give me, can't separate me into 4 pieces. So you have to figure out a way to give your babies what they need if you can't give it to them. And that's, like you said, I did. I took time to think. I didn't want to act irrationally because when you do, it's a thought in your head that you'll always say, oh my gosh, why did I do that? You question.
Yeah.
You feel resentment. There's a lot of times you may hate yourself. And I didn't want to feel that way. I have peace now. I have happiness. I don't like frustration. Nobody does. And you want to feel easy when it comes to kids.
So you feel that things would have turned out totally different for you had you followed through with the abortion?
I do.
Yeah.
I feel like even today, if I don't try something that's presented to me, then I'm going to regret it later. Because any opportunity that comes to you that could be potentially better for you, you need to take it.
Yeah.
Because when you act irrationally, it doesn't work. And it's also patience based. I have no patience. But with kids, you have to. And any situation pertaining to kids, and that being one of them. You have to make the best choice. And being prepared. Once again, like you said, being prepared. You can't just make that decision.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen like that.
So what was the best thing that came out of your adoption story?
I want to say I don't think there is a best part.
Just the whole picture
The whole
for
thing.
you.
Because it's just every moment, every second, everything we do together, I can't describe. I couldn't pick anything better than one another. It's all great, honestly.
I am really proud of you. I've seen you grow over the 6 years or so that I've known you, and it's inspiring to see how you have walked through the challenges that you have, but because you've educated yourself and you have allowed yourself to be vulnerable with individuals and we're able to share with you truth, and then you're able to make a good decision and moving forward. So I thank you for sharing your testimony with us.
You're welcome.
Normally at this time we would take an offering, and that's what we're going to do. I'm going to ask Troy if he would to put up, if you want to give through PayPal, you can do that. If you want to write a check, you can write that out to Precious Life. Our address is online. You can find that, or you can call the office. You can send a check, and that would help. If you want to become a monthly supporter, just put monthly on the part of the check. PayPal you can go through, or you can go through preciouslifeinc.com. There's a donate button there, and that will go through PayPal, but it will also take a regular credit card. So as Brandon plays, if we could, can we scroll some of those sponsors? I feel an obligation. If you know me at all, you know that I always try to do what I say I'm going to do, and when I can't, that troubles me. And those sponsors that sponsored us gave a lot of money, and none of them has asked for it back. Many of you who purchased tickets allowed us to keep that money, and that goes towards the total, and we thank you for that. You've been very, very generous. And the Jaffa, if I forgot to mention, I don't know, but the Jaffa waived our fee. That's probably worth about $8,000 it would have been to put, and the Holiday Inn as well. That would have cost us $8,000 or $9,000 between those two, and they both waived that. So God has been very good. God has been very good. And I wanted to somehow thank the sponsors, so we're going to run that for about 3 minutes. If you were at the banquet right now, some of you would be putting your money in an offering envelope and and trying to get out to your car. That's another good thing about a virtual banquet. You can't leave right now. So stick with us for a few more minutes. We just have this to do. It'll take about 3 or 4 minutes to run those sponsors. Brandon will play something, and then we'll come back and say goodbye. Well, folks, it's the end of the banquet. You can, if you'd like, you could text me what you're eating. That would be fun to watch. We should have done that while we were on here, but I want to thank you so much. These are uncertain times and different times, and most of our time and attention now is trying to scramble and figure out how we go forward, and God has been so good to give us good leadership and great supporters like you. We cannot thank you enough. We just cannot. We want you to know the scope of the ministry. And originally, when I started to prepare the theme, forgetting those things that are behind and reaching forth to those things that are before, we press. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to press. Going to keep reaching girls. Going to keep ministering to them as long as God allows us. So thank you for joining us. I'd like to give a prayer, and then I got a final goodbye. Father, thank you again for the time together. Thank you for the dear folks who've watched. So many of our friends. I saw Amy on there from South Dakota, and I saw Andre from the Gypsy Village, and all the girls, and so many friends that we've made in these years, and some of our friends from My Brother's Keeper. So that's a blessing, and we thank you so much for them. We thank you for all you're doing. Thank you for our supporters. Thank you again for the church here being so generous with their facilities. At Transformation Church, with Troy and Jackson, and we thank Jimmy for allowing us to do this. Father, we ask you just simply give us wisdom as we move forward. We are living in the land of I don't know. We just don't know what the future holds. But we are so glad that as believers, we can offer that hope that we have in Jesus Christ to those who may not have that hope. In Jesus' name, amen. And now to my friends in Romania, I will say, vă iubim pe toți, ne rugăm pentru voi, fiți în siguranța. Dumnezeu Salve bene quinventase. And that means we love you, we are praying for you, be safe, and God bless you. And that is what I would say to you, our friends. We love you, we're praying for you, be safe, and God bless you.